Hey guys, I'm Bella, the maker mama boss lady behind Bella's Custom Crochets, although if you did watch my last podcast episode, there is going to be a business name change coming soon, so keep an eye out for that mix-up. But currently Bella's Custom Crochets, and today I'm here to talk to you about my latest pattern. We're doing a pattern drop video, guys, for the Hope and a Future wrap. And obviously I put a lot of intention and meaning and inspiration into all of my designs, but this one is definitely the most inspiration and most like backstory to it of any pattern that I've ever done, and I'm really excited to get this one out into the world. I've been working on it for a long time, and yeah, I just want to share all the details all about this pattern, what you need to know before you get it, and why you're gonna love it. So let's talk Hope in a Future wrap. So first off, some inspiration. Like I said, this is the most inspired, I guess, design that I've ever had. Normally I pick some pretty colors and a pretty stitch and we kind of go from there. Maybe there's a little story behind it, but this was something that was really birthed out of 2020 and the mess that it was. I think we can all say that that was a rough year for us, whether personally or on a global scale, a financial scale, an emotional scale, a national scale, all of the scales. It was a rough year, guys, and it's still not over. We're just doing 2020 Junior here. But this design started mulling around in my head back early in the spring when things went wild, and I got in contact with the dyer that I'm going to talk about in the collaboration section coming next, but I got in contact with the dyer in July of 2020, and it's now, when you're watching this, March of 2021. So it's been a long road. I'm referring to this as my second child because we're going on close to 9 months of birthing this thing into the world. And I'm going to put in lots of pictures throughout so you can see a more full view of this, because it is a very large wrap, but I will show you in a minute. But the inspiration behind the Hope in a Future wrap, there's quite a few things that went into it, but for me, it was definitely a rough year. Rough on all of the scales that I have previously described. It was rough. And just trying to cling to hope. The name Hope in a Future, I pulled from one of my favorite, and I think probably a lot of people's favorite Bible passages. It's from Jeremiah 29:11, and the verse says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And so that's where the name came from. But even more than that, there's a lot behind this design. So I want to take it off at this point, and I always spend such a long time putting it on and getting it to look good, and then I take it off every time. But we're going to show you. So I wanted to, when I was looking for dyers to collaborate with, I had a very specific image in mind that I wanted something that was really dark main colors, like dark gray, and preferably black. And there's not a lot of indie dyers that do black. And I also wanted to use mini skeins in a like jewel tone rainbow, which is, my thing. And I wanted to use the same dyer for the whole project and not have like a assortment of mini skeins kind of thrown in there. So I was looking for a dyer who had both the really, really dark, preferably black skeins as well as jewel tone minis. And one of the people that instantly came to mind was Meg of Meg's & Co. Yarn, which again, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, she had all the perfect yarns and even dyed one specifically for the design. I'm kind of bleeding into the collaboration section, but we'll cover it in more detail in a second. But I wanted something that had really dark black and gray and then had rainbow interspersed in between it. And the inspiration there was that the black and the gray represent darkness and hopelessness and just the heaviness and weightiness that 2020, or just life in general. I know we're all kind of in that like 2020 mode, but just in general, stuff can get heavy, stuff can get dark, stuff can get like, you can't see light anymore. And I wanted to represent just this really hopelessness that the world was feeling, that the world is feeling, the world has always been feeling, with the black and the dark gray. But I wanted to have the rainbow in there because for me, rainbow represents not only just some really happy colors, and I just like things in rainbow order, but it represents the promises of God to me. So having this rainbow popping in and out throughout the really dark times, if you will, was just a reminder to me to wrap myself up in hope and look for the rainbows, look for those peaks of light and goodness, and just, hope in the middle of what looked really dark and hopeless. So that was the reasoning for the color choice. And then on top of that, I knew that I wanted to use a stitch pattern that had a like chevron to it, a zigzag, but not like the classic, like, blanket Afghan chevron, something fancy. So I wanted to do chevron. Let me find the section where it really pops well. You can see it really well here. A chevron-y pattern, chevron being, a zigzag, ups and downs, because I wanted to represent highs and lows, hills and valleys, ups and downs, because that's what life is. Not only 2020 again, but life is just a series of stuff's good, stuff's horrible, stuff's good, stuff's horrible. And I wanted to represent the wholeness of a story of that there's beauty there. Whether you're in a high or a low point or somewhere you're not sure. But there's beauty to be had there and something to be learned and hope to be clung to. So I wanted to do the chevron, and I settled on this lace pattern, which is just really, I think, a fantastic chevron pattern. But in addition to that, I wanted it to be a lacy chevron and not a, 70s couch chevron, or 70s couch blanket chevron, because to me, lace, and I'm working on a knit lace pattern right now, and it's really ringing true to me, but lace, when you're knitting it, you're like, what is going on here? Crocheting it, that's what I meant. But either way, any sort of lace where you're like, so I have some holes here, and then I skip some stuff, and then it just looks like a mess. And then you kind of step back and you get a little bit into it, and you get the bird's eye view, if you will. And you're like, oh, I see it now. And that's another metaphor I wanted to throw in there, because when you're in the midst of just mess, life, stuff getting messy, maybe you're not seeing the beauty there, and it can just kind of look like a bunch of holes and a bunch of stuff puckering and a bunch of what is this when you're right up on it, or in it. But yeah, when you step back and you look at lace as a whole, in a whole story, if you will, you're like, oh, I see it now. I see that beauty that was there the whole time, and it's not just a bunch of holes. So I wanted that in the design, just clinging to that hope that while things might look like this is a bunch of potholes, this is a bunch of tangles, this is a bunch of what is going on here, that there is a beautiful story being written in my life and in your life, and that when you step back and you look at it, be it next year or many years down the road, or even just next week, and you step back and you say, oh, I see it now. I hate to say hindsight is 2020, because no one wants to say 2020 in a positive way now. But that kind of thing. So like I said, just a ton of inspiration and intention went into picking colors, picking stitch patterns, picking just all of it. It was a very inspired design, and for me, it's just literally being able to wrap myself in a visual picture of hope. So when I put it on, I'm wrapping up in that hope, clinging to the fact that there is a future and that it is a good one, and that beauty is being made in my story and in your story. So I'll go with the over the shoulder for now. I'll probably end up taking it off again, let's be real. But there are lots of ways you can wear this. It is designed to be a wrap, is the name, because hope in a future scarf didn't quite ring as beautifully. But it is a very long, like I showed you, a long rectangular, and it's the same stitch pattern throughout. So once you get it down, you're just changing colors, and it's a repetitive enough where you can easily memorize it, no problem. It's one row throughout. So it's not a complicated lace pattern, but it's interesting enough because you just do it for a little bit and then you change colors. So you don't really have to keep a stitch count other than occasionally, just make sure you haven't done anything weird. But it's very easy to tell, as long as you have the same amount of little chevron ripples throughout, you're good. You just keep going, you keep changing colors, and yeah, it's great. So you can wear it over the shoulders like a traditional wrap. It's about 15 inches wide by 72 inches long when you freshly block it, but it tends to, as you're wearing it, want to shrink up widthwise and grow lengthwise just because of the weight and the tassels on the end. So I think mine is like shrunk down to 13 and a half or something inches at this point because I've been wearing it and it just wants to lengthen. But with blocking, it's about 15 inches wide. And I think once I threw the tassels on, it's about 77 inches, I think. And some of the testers that you'll see later on did different tassel versions, and there's definitely options there. But yeah, it's a good for over the shoulders. You can definitely do the, like I had it on before, like a scarf. You can definitely, see, I got it all pretty. I'm taking off. You can do the loop it over like this. This is really cute if you're going for more of the winter look and you want to wear it with a jacket. And then you can wrap it around. See, it's a long one. You can do the full on, like, it's really cold outside. I just whipped you with it. Really cold outside. Maybe tuck an end in somewhere. There we go, like this. This is not my best modeling, but again, we'll put in pictures. You can go, oh, we can wear it like that now, I guess. Wear it like that as well. And there's a lot of options to be had so with this wrap scarf shawl. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the collaboration. This was a delight to be working with Meg of Megs & Co. I have worked with her before on, she's tested for me and made some of my patterns, and I've worked with her yarn on non-business related things. So we had kind of a prior relationship going, and that's one of the reasons she came to mind right away when I was looking for that dyer with those colors. And like I said, I reached out to her in July, and just like working out the logistics of the collab took a little bit, and she custom dyed some stuff, and then like Christmas happened and we didn't want to do any like patterny stuff mid-Christmas and a pandemic and just put more stress on people. So yeah, it stretched out a long time. I promise you the shawl will not take you 8 months to actually make. I made mine in like, I think I remade it a couple times, but start to finish, 2 weeks. And I think testing was about a month, including the time to get the yarn. So it's not like a massive project or anything. I don't want you to think it's an 8-month like lifetime commitment. That was just the design process. But the collaboration has been such a joy. So what I'm wearing is the original colors that we're calling this Bella's kit. So Meg of Megs & Co. has kits at the time of the filming of this, still up on her website. She did a round of pre-orders, and now she has some kits open for anybody who wants to grab one. So this is the Bella's version. So this is the one that's going to have the black and the dark charcoal, and then the really jewel tone rainbow. But I'll pop in a picture as well. Meg did a different take on it for hers. So she has this gray, but then a very pale light gray as well, instead of the black as the main color, which kind of has a totally different springy vibe to it. And then her rainbow has some of the same colors, but also some bright, like I think her blue is a more of like a bright, can't think of the word, a bright blue instead of this deeper jewel tone blue. And I think she has a hot pink instead of the red and maybe a different purple. But it's very similar. It's the same rainbow scheme. And she's calling that Meg's kit. So I will make sure I link to her pattern or her shop with the kits as well. And definitely go give her a follow on Instagram and whatnot, because even if you're not buying this kit, you should get something from Meg. Her yarn is delightful. Her color range is amazing. And she is a crocheter first. She knits as well, but crocheter first, which is always super fun to collaborate with, especially because she was able to test for me as well. And just, I love it when the indie dyers aim for the crochet crowd as well, because we like fancy yarn too. So Meg is just all around fantastic, and I just so appreciate her throughout this whole process. She has been amazing. So highly recommend you go check out Meg's yarn. And if you want to know a little bit more about Meg, I did an interview with her over on the blog a couple of weeks ago that I will link for you as well. So I'm just going to tell you the colors in case you are curious or wanted to grab any particular one and not a kit, but get that kit is good. So the main colors, we have Cinderella. So it's Megs & Co. and it's all on her classic sock. The minis are called Mini Meg, but it's all the same 75-25 4-ply fingering weight. So Cinderella is the charcoal gray. which is really just like my ideal gray. I really love this, and I would love to make a full garment in that gray at some point. The black is Little Black Dress, and it is a true, true black. And it takes a lot of dye and a lot of time and effort to dye just straight black yarn. And like, there's not a lot of dyers that do it. You might find like a tonal gray black or something with black speckles, but like a straight up solid black. It's not even like a tonal. It's like black. Black yarn is hard to come by, and Meg does it really, really well. And one of my big concerns with using the black was that it might run into other colors. So like, I asked Meg and she was like, no, it won't. But I did like a swatch because I was worried about like the light green and the yellow. And I can tell you that the black does not run at all. At all. Fully blocked, soap, warm water, everything. No running, no bleeding whatsoever. So even if you're planning on using this black in something else, or you want to do like color work with it, it did not bleed. It did not bleed. And that is really awesome because there's a lot of dye in black yarn. So Meg's awesome and she knows what she's doing. So trust her. And then the other colors that are in my kit, if you want the breakdown on what colors are in her kit, you're gonna have to go jump over to her listing. But the red, which she custom dyed for the design, was Apple Picking. And it's a pink, red with like some pink undertones to it. And the orange is called Golden Afternoon. This one has some really pretty black speckles in it. Initially, I was hesitant to combine like some of the colors because I was like, some of them are speckled, some of them are more tonal, some of them are like, this one's like almost variegated, and they came together so beautifully. So good. Sippin' on Sunshine is the yellow, and this one's definitely got a good black speckle and a little bit of, woo, I threw them. It's across the room now. A little bit of orange, a little bit of red, really pretty yellow color. Would be great in everything, I think, because you know how I feel about yellow. This pretty, pretty pale green is called Where It Never Rains. All the shades of green in there. It's really lovely. And I don't usually go for a light green, and I really like that one. And we know blue is out of my wheelhouse. I don't do anything in blue. Shoreline. And this one's got a lot of depth to it and really pretty tones of blue and just like really bright green in there as well. Which I'm glad it was this and not like a traditional navy or something. Really like this blue. Then the indigo. It's really a dark purple, but you know, I got a Roy G. Bivet. This was as indigo-y as we went. It's really more purple, but this is called Sangria. Really like this purple as well. And then the violet, if you will, is Lilac Festival. So those are the colors that I used in collaboration with Megs & Co. Yarn. Like I said, everything is going to be linked down below for her, and highly recommend that you go check her out. While I do recommend using Megs & Co. Yarn because it's been just such a delight to work with, and Meg is awesome, and support those indie dyers, guys. I do want to give you some info on the materials needed for the pattern if you maybe want to stash dye or use something else. Again, I'll put in the tester photos. I had 3 testers who used Meg's yarn and then 3 who did not. And I love representing different options to you guys just because I know it's maybe not in everyone's budget, or maybe you have a whole giant stash of yarn and you don't need more, or maybe you got an advent calendar with minis and you're looking for a use for some of those. This would be perfect for that. So what you're going to need, like I said, there's 2 main colors, the black and the gray. You definitely don't have to do the gray with the rainbow. That's what I designed it to be. But again, do what makes you happy and makes you think of hope. The 2 main colors are both 100 gram fingering weight skeins. Meg's are 460 yards. The pattern uses roughly 405-ish of each one, including the tassels. So you definitely want to make sure it's a upper range 400 skein if you want to not be playing yarn chicken on this one, because this would be a big pain if you got like almost to the end and then ran out of a main color, because it would just all be off balance and weird. So 400 plus yards for sure. 460 gram skeins. There's been plenty left over. Like I said, I used about 405, and that's with the shorter tassels. My tassels are pretty short and pretty chunky. I wish I'd show you this one. This one's a little easier to see. Some testers did much longer, thinner tassels, and some did some really other creative, awesome things with tassels. I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to play any yarn chicken and wasn't going to be letting you play any yarn chicken buying kits, but you can definitely get away with a larger tassel if you'd like. So you're going to need, like I said, 2 full fingering weight 100-gram skeins, and then 7 20-gram minis, and Megs are 90 yards, and the pattern uses about 75 of each, depending again on how you do the tassels, but the numbers do include tassels. So the yardage is given, include the tassels. I'm sorry, that was worded horribly. But yeah, so 20-gram minis, if you have advent skeins, or even if you have scraps of full skeins, 20 grams will do ya. And then it just, yeah, it's the same stitch pattern throughout, and you're going to be using a decent size hook, a 5mm, to achieve the open laciness of the stitch. And other than that, you just might want some blocking materials because lace just looks really beautiful for blocking. With blocking, I'm sorry, I'm just stumbling here, but definitely recommend wet blocking. And there's a tutorial included in the pattern if you're not familiar with how to do that. I always like to let you guys know what the pattern includes as well, in case you're wondering what you're going to get with your purchase. So this pattern is going to include, obviously, the full written pattern. I try to make sure there's always really good photographs of it being worn different ways and up close of the stitch texture and all of that. So I'm going to look at my notes just to make sure I get everything. So you're going to get the full pattern. The stitch motif is charted as well. Not the entire thing because it's just a 1-row repeat. So there's the swatch is charted. And then from there, you're good to go. So if you like a stitch chart, there's a stitch chart in there. And if you look at stitch charts and you're like, I don't know what that means, there's also a video tutorial where I walk you through making the swatch and go through quite a few rows, just repeating it and showing you how it all works together. And it's not a complicated stitch. So once you get it down, you just do row 2 forever and ever and ever. So it's an advanced beginner level pattern. I think with the video in there, it's easy. You'll get it, I promise. So it is fingering weight, so it is a time commitment. But you can just take a little bit at a time. You don't have to keep track of like which row and like you put it down and you're going to lose your place. It's the same row over and over and over. So other than just counting for the stripes, very easy to set it down and pick it back up again. So in addition to the video tutorial, there is also a coloring sheet. If you're like me, anytime a pattern is like, and now use color D, I'm like, I don't remember what color that was. So all of my patterns that use that, I try to make sure that there's a spot next to that where you can color in a little square. So if it says, now use color E, you can color it in and you're like, oh, that's color E, I remember now. And there's also a coloring sheet of the whole wrap laid out with little stripes in it, so you can color in if you're planning on doing Roy G. Biv or something totally different. Print it out a couple times and try different versions. So I like a good coloring visual. So there is a coloring sheet included as well. And then in addition to the video tutorial for doing the gauge swatch and gauging, there's also additional links to the blocking tutorial. Like I said, if you don't know how to wet block something, I have a shawl blocking video. And then also a tutorial on how to do the tassels if you're iffy on that. Very simple, but if you'd like a visual, again, I have one in there for you. So that is what is going to come with your purchase of the Hope in a Future wrap. All right, and here we're going to insert some photos from the testers. Like I said, I had an amazing test group and some of them used Meg's yarn, including Meg herself. So if you want to see more of Megan's version with the lighter, a little bit poppier, springier colors. Meg used her own kit, and that, like I said, is available on her site. And then I had 2 other testers who also used the same kit as I did. One of them did it in the same color sequence, but did some really awesome, almost macrame-like thing with her tassels, and I'm so jealous, and I want to just go cut all of my tassels off of everything I've ever made and do it the way Dana did, because it's so cool. But I should say, this is the version included in the pattern. Should have included this in the pattern included part, but so it's like the main colors alternating with like rainbow order wraps on the top, but it is very easy to modify tassels to whatever you like and whatever yarn amounts you have left. And you'll see throughout the testers, they all kind of did a different thing and it came out really cool. So I also had one other tester who got this kit, but then did it in a different color sequence. So had the rainbow colors, but not in rainbow order. And it came out totally different and looks super cool. And then I had testers who did like their totally own thing and were stash diving with different dyers yarns, which was totally awesome because I know a lot of us have yarn already and don't want to go buy more yarn. So she tried out a bunch of different color combos and was sending us photos and using that little coloring sheet and was able to pick out a really beautiful, like different kind of like a rusty version that was just absolutely gorgeous. It's not rainbow, but I love it. And she kept taking pictures with like a rug in her house that looked like the same color scheme, and it was so satisfying. And then I had a tester who was in Ireland and didn't want to, ship from New York. So she was using different yarns that she had, and it's a really bright and springy pastel version, and it's gorgeous. And then I also had another tester who wanted to use a more budget-friendly option and not go the indie dyed route, which is always an option, and I don't want to feel like you guys are being pressured. I don't want you to feel like you're being pressured into only being able to use indie dyed yarn for my designs. I have the privilege to work with dyers a lot of the time, but I totally get it. If that's not for you right now, use what you have, use what you love, use what makes your budget happy and what makes you happy. So she did a version in, I think it's Loops and Threads Wool-like, which is a commercially available, very budget-friendly yarn, and it came out just as awesome. So no matter what yarn you're planning on using or would like to clear out of your stash, there's definitely options in here, and this is a good one. Even if you don't specifically have 20 gram minis, you probably have 20 grams of something laying around, so you can definitely go scrappy as well. So that's about everything I wanted to tell you about my Hope and a Future wrap. I do want to let you know that you're watching this today on March 12th, 2021. So for the first, I usually do the first week, but I'm going to do Friday to Thursday. So the 12th through the 18th, if you use the code WRAPINHOPE on Ravelry, you can get 10% off the pattern download. And it is also available on Etsy, but I don't do the codes there. So if Ravelry is an accessibility issue for you, please let me know. I am working on getting patterns up on my own site, hopefully this year sometime, but that's still in the works. So Ravelry is currently my go-to. If that doesn't work for you, let me know. But there will be a 10% off coupon code there. Definitely jump over and go check out Meg's yarns. Highly, again, recommend for sure. And if you want to know anything more about this pattern or see some more pattern tester photos, there's a blog post linked down below that is basically the same rundown of what I just said, but a little bit more photos, a little bit more detail. I know this was a little bit of a longer one, but this is a really special piece, and I wanted to share all of the inspiration details with you guys. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting my designs and this channel. And if you are watching this in the future, the pattern is now under a different brand name. So I have rebranded as of the middle of March 2021. But the pattern is still available, remains the same, and is awesome. So thank you for loving the Hope and a Future wrap. I know that you guys have been really excited for this one and have been watching me since last summer work on this. So thank you for sticking it out, and I hope you really enjoy the pattern. Don't forget to tag me. I'm not going to say the business name here because it might change, but tag me in my business name at whatever time you're watching this, and use the hashtag Hope and a Future wrap. It's a long one. There was no way to abbreviate that. Over on Instagram, and if you're using Meg's kit, make sure to tag megs&co_yarn as well. I'm sure she would love to see what you're making up in her yarns. So thank you guys, and I hope that you enjoy this one. Go wrap yourself in some hope, and I will talk to you guys soon.